right, it's another episode of Splash Hit Territory. We have a very special guest today. Covers the Giants for NBC Sports Bay Area. He's the host of his own podcast, Giants Talk Baseball. He's the author of The Franchise. He's got 93.7 thousand followers on Twitter. Susan, we got to step up our game big time. This kid, that's a lot of followers. Alex Pavlovic joins us. Alex, what's going on, man? How are you?
I didn't realize it was that. I've been stuck on 93.7 for like 2 years. So everyone, I gain and then I lose. So but I'll take it.
The Giants make 2 moves and you pick up like 4,000 or 5,000 people. Come on. That's why I often think FP, I need to raise my game when I see Pavs. That's kind of my constant state of being is I need to up my game because of Pavs.
No.
So
I need to up my.
You mentioned his book. His book is also awesome.
I did. The Franchise. I just said it. Pay attention.
You did.
So it's so good. Huge recommendation for The Franchise.
Thank you.
So Alex, you like I are spring training bound shortly.
Yeah.
Obviously, we wanted to have you on to what's your assessment now of this team heading to Arizona with spring training opening Tuesday?
Not the sexiest offseason, which I think I've watched some of what you guys have done as well this offseason. I think, but also probably about where one thing we said on our podcast over and over again is I think the Giants beat has been in the same place for most of this offseason. And Susan, I know you and I especially were in lockstep with second base and kind of reporting the same names. And Bags did a great job with the CJ Abrams thing. And I think we just kind of felt the same way about where they were going. And I don't know if you ever wrote a Framber Valdez story, but I never wrote a Framber Valdez story. So ultimately, not that big a surprise. And I think pretty similar to the team that we saw last year and counting a lot on Tony and counting a lot on a full year of Rafi Devers and counting a lot on their ability to get the most out of these pitchers, which I find fascinating because I've asked Buster multiple times about his main takeaway from year one. And it was, you can never have too much pitching. And maybe our faith in the young pitching was not what it should have been a year ago. So they're kind of running back the same plan and hoping that their pitching plan goes better this time around. So we will see.
Well, it was kind of slow for all of us, right? I mean, me and FP included. What did you make of that? And then and FP, what do you wanted to ask?
Well, I want to ask him about Luis Arráez. It's weird that the Giants have to defend this move. And there's weird, and maybe I'm on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it too much. But at FanFest in Sacramento last Saturday, everybody was fired up about it. But then you hear all the criticisms, and I just don't understand it. They have so much swing and miss in their lineup, Alex, that I feel like a guy that makes contacts is exactly what the doctor ordered.
It was a fascinating, and I saw you tweeting about it a little bit. The way I put it was the breakdown on Twitter was completely one thing. And then all the messages I got on Instagram, basically all the comments on my YouTube page, all the Giants fan friends that I have had a different reaction. So very polarizing, which I understand. I mean, his main thing is batting average. And if you're looking at other stuff, it's very easy to be down on him. I think I try to take the overall view, which is the Harrison Bader deal. The big thing about that to me was Jung-Hoo Lee moves to right field. So your team is better, not just because you have Harrison Bader, but because Jung-Hoo Lee is in a better position. And when it comes to Luis Arráez, there are some faults there. I think they're going to have to figure out some ways around the defense. I'm curious to see how Tony handles that and whether he's aggressive with he bats in the 7th inning of a 1-run game. Do you get him out of there and Christian Koss or Casey Schmidt? I assume that's the case. But I also think he makes the lineup deeper. And the main thing to me is Casey Schmidt, other than him last year, there were 400 plate appearances at second base. So Luis Arráez is going to get a lot more time than Casey Schmidt did last year. That's the plan at least. But there's going to be a lot of plate appearances now that are Casey Schmidt's that would have been Christian Koss's and that are Christian Koss's that would have been somebody else's. And, you're better on your bench as well. So I just thought it made him better. It's not like a blockbuster move. I understand why people are, you look at the WRC plus and you look at the defensive metrics. I understand people who are down on it. I also would say he's 28 and 3 years ago, his WRC plus was 130. So if you meet in the middle and it's 115 for 1 year, $12 million like that, you did pretty well.
Totally agree. I mean, the one move, the Bader move, makes your defense much better. And I think you can then absorb maybe a little bit of a dip in another spot. So what do you then do with Casey Schmidt?
I had heard going back to the winter meetings that they wanted him to be a utility guy. He also is pretty intriguing probably as a trade piece. I know you've written that a little bit, Susan, and I've always thought like he's so good defensively at third base, and the best thing he does on a baseball field, he will never get to do for the San Francisco Giants. So I think for his sake, probably at some point it's best to move on, and not that he wants to think that way, but he's a really, really good defensive third baseman, and that is like a carrying tool for Casey Schmidt for the rest of the next 5-6 years, whatever it is. So I'm curious to see where they go with. I mean, obviously it's Thursday here, and we're pretty close to camp opening, and looks like he will be there. I like him as a backup. Like he can play all 4 infield spots. You don't know what's going to happen with Arraez. Like, what if the bat takes a step back and the defense is where it was last year, and you're like, oops, like that was, that's maybe not the best plan at second base. Or what if a bunch of balls are just getting through the infield when Logan Webb is out there and Casey needs to start all those games? So I like him as a backup. I like him as a utility guy. I would have been fine with him as a starter as well, but the fact that he's so good at third base, can play shortstop, can play first base if you need him to, I think that's pretty valuable.
I love the idea of going into spring with like the bulk of your guys, even if there are question marks about where they're going to be, because as spring training goes along, FP, you know this, the first time any team in baseball is down a third baseman, Casey Schmidt's name is going to crop up everywhere. So there's no reason not to hang on to him, but he, to me, besides Bryce Eldridge, probably among the young guys has the most trade value. So, and there's certainly some areas that they need a little bit of help still, I would say.
I've been really big on Casey Schmidt, and I think he has a chance to be a dude. And maybe they make him, Alex, a super utility guy where you throw a little right field in there and maybe a little left field and teach him the outfield as well. He's not a bad runner at all. My only question with him is when he plays, he's good. And I don't know that if he plays in spurts, like there's an art to coming off the bench. And Christian Koss is a guy that can sit there for a week or so and still be productive. And with Casey, I felt like when he got those long stints of playing, we saw the real Casey Schmidt. But if he sits around for a week, say he's an NFL player, which I used to call myself, he only plays on Sundays. Like that's hard to keep your rhythm. So do you think he has that makeup and mentality and can learn how to do that a little bit better than last year?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be hard. And one thing with Casey is we have seen times where he's gotten a real extended look. It's gone a little bit better for him. Unfortunately for him, like there's been injuries as well. I like that you brought up the outfield thing, mostly just because I was kind of going through the roster today and looking at last year's opening day roster. And I had kind of forgotten that they kept 4 outfielders last year, in part because Christian Koss made the team. And you just look at the makeup of this roster. 2 catchers, you have the outfielders. And if Bryce Eldridge makes it and you have a full-time DH there, I do think one of these backup guys is going to have to be more versatile. So curious if when we get there next week, that's something we see as well. I know Christian Koss has done that quite a bit in the past, and he's like, I'll do whatever. But I think somebody on this bench, if you have a roster that has Devers and Eldridge and Arraez, which is going to be the plan, whether opening day or at some point, somebody's going to have to be more versatile, and Casey probably is going to have to pick up part of that.
I'm coming out of retirement. Look out. Here I come. 59-year-old rookie.
Super utility, super old utility.
Yeah.
You mentioned the outfield possibilities. They've obviously got several guys who are going to be vying for the backup outfield spot. 2 of them are out of options, Matos and Encarnacion. And then you got Drew Gilbert, who's probably got to be the leader in the clubhouse, given where he went to college. How are you seeing that shaping up?
I think not only given where he went to college, but given that he is like Tony's ideal baseball player. And I had Mike Wilson, who I think we all followed in October. He covers Tennessee sports. He was on my podcast this week, and I asked him about Drew, and he just was like, he changed that entire program, and he was the first real prospect for Tony. They're very close. Look, that's going to be something I think they're probably aware of, like, don't go too far in that direction and make sure he wins a job. And I talked to Drew after Tony got hired, and he's like, I know I have to go out and and win a job. But I'd view him as the front runner for that reason, and also for the fact that in the second half last year, it was him. Like it was they gave him a shot there down the stretch. So if that's your fourth guy, Matos and Encarnacion, both of them out of options, I guess I understand it because you never know where there's injuries. I'm a little surprised that they're going to go this far with Matos into camp and haven't tried to figure out a way to do something there already. You and I are in the room when he gets mentioned and at the winter meetings and at the GM meetings, and he comes up in these things. And I just kind of always go back to like, yeah, but he was healthy last year and was just an afterthought. And so I feel like at some point they're going to have to make a move there.
Yeah, he never gets mentioned, which that tells you a lot, I think. But yeah, you're right. An injury and suddenly he's in the picture again. An injury with another team, and suddenly maybe you can actually swing a little bit of a deal for him during the spring. So the talent's there. We've seen so many flashes of the talent. I think he goes to a young team and gets, a little bit of playing time. Could have a nice little career.
Yeah, I hope something happens for him before he reaches the Marco point where you're bouncing back and forth. I'm trying to alternately mute my mic because there's a screaming baby and dog upstairs.
But, right.
But yeah, I hope he gets a shot here to play every day before, Marco and Wade Meckler both got put in a tough spot this offseason.
Oh, poor Marco. He's been everywhere.
Getting back to Gilbert real quick, you guys, for both of you, I'm interested to see the relationship between he and Tony Vitello. Because, it might be like playing for your dad a little bit, where sometimes that's kind of hard, right? He knows him. They're familiar with each other. Obviously, he loves the kid because he did a lot for his program. So that dynamic, their relationship itself on the field, in the clubhouse, to me is going to be something I think I'm going to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, I think if you're Drew, for a lot of reasons, you want to have a good camp, but especially because you are the front runner there and you do make sense alongside Bader, and you don't want this to be weird for the other players as well. Like you want to, and he knows this and he's talked about this, like go out and earn it in Scottsdale.
Yeah, you don't want to be the teacher's pet for sure. He's got personality plus oodles of personality, but you don't want to have that lumped on you at the same time. Yeah. Like, he's on scholarship kind of situation.
Well, that don't play in the big leagues. You got to go out there and do it. You got to walk the talk for sure. All right. This is my burning question. Like, what's going on with the bullpen? Like, who's the closer? What's the bullpen shaping up like in your mind, Alex?
It's my burning question as well. And it's fascinating to me that Buster Posey, who won 3 titles in large part because of bullpens, lost the chance at a 4th in 2016 because of the bullpen. That this is this is the big question going into camp for his roster. I like a lot of what they're doing. I generally like the non-roster, give these guys a chance. The young guys give these guys a chance. I mean, who knows, Birdsong or McDonald or Carson Seymour, one of these guys might just look awesome in March. But it does feel like there's so many holes to fill in terms of being a good bullpen. Like they have guys who can do it. They have guys who did it last year, but there's just multiple holes to fill to get them to a point where they're playoff competitive, I think. And it does feel like they're taking a bit of a risk here. My guess is Ryan Walker is going to win that job because I don't think there was anything last year that was alarming. It's just, this FP from playing like relievers, they just do this. Like you have a 1.7 and then a 4, and then the next year it's 1.8. And I think he's going to be fine. And if that's the case, like he showed us 2 years ago, he's comfortable in the 9th inning. Susan, you were at FanFest in San Jose, right? When we were trying to pin down Tony and kind of kept circling around this committee. Yeah. So I don't love that just because I've talked to so many relievers who just aren't comfortable with not knowing what the situation's going to be. And not just like older guys, but even the last couple of years, like it's just really helpful when you know that you have Tyler Rogers in the 8th and Randy Rodriguez in the 7th and Camilo in whatever it is. Like, so I'm fascinated, and I think this is something that, for me, it's what I'm going to be watching most closely because that's also one area where you can kind of get a good sense of, like a lot of times the guy will go 3 for 4 and 2 of the hits were off of a double-A pitcher in the 7th and 9th inning of a spring game. But a lot of these guys, especially the non-roster guys and some of the younger guys, early on, like they'll come in the 3rd, 4th inning of a spring game, and we'll get a chance to see what they can do. But I think they need to, like, multiple guys need to take a leap before opening day, because it is like a clear weakness of the roster. And given how tough that schedule is at the start of the year and all the contending teams they're going to see, like, not great that right now you don't know who's pitching like the 7th, 8th, 9th for you.
I don't hate the idea of throwing somebody, who one of the young pitchers who doesn't make the rotation, throw one of them. A couple of them have bullpen time now already. Birdsong, obviously, McDonald. I really don't hate it. Some of them profile as guys who might handle that job, and it might be a nice spot for them.
Yeah.
Period.
What if you made Birdsong the closer? Like, he's got that mentality.
I think he could.
I don't think it's crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. And I mean, the funny thing about like interleague play for me is we see teams like Cleveland come in and you're like, who is this guy in the 7th inning who's throwing 98 and has a nasty breaking ball? And you look at his numbers on the scoreboard and he has a 1.7 ERA and a 1.9 FIP. And like, they need to find a couple of those guys. And is it Carson Seymour? Is it McDonald? Is it Birdsong? I don't know, but they need to figure that out.
What have you made of Vitello? We've had, somewhat limited FaceTime with him. Obviously, he was introductory press conference, winter meetings, and then a couple of fan fests. Well, what do you make of him so far?
One thing I've said over and over again this offseason that I don't think we've gotten specifics on much, which is understandable because so much of his initial hire was about him being the guy who got the job. And even if like the winter meetings, when we're sitting there in that 30-minute session with him in front of cameras, like probably about half those questions were not beat writers just asking about like, how are you going to do this being a college guy and what kind of trend is this setting? So I'm really excited just to get to camp, and it'll be me and you and the other beat writers sitting there and being like, who is your closer? And what are you going to do with Arraez late in games? And, things like that. And what is this team going to play like? I think in college he was able to be successful because he was a really great recruiter, and they did a really good job at Tennessee of getting more power out of arms, getting more power out of the lineup. It's different here, and he's going to have to be better in games. Not that he wasn't good in games there, but he's going to have to be good in games. I think there's going to be more scrutiny. So I just don't think we've like learned much about what he's going to be as an actual manager. I think we've learned a lot about what he's going to be as a face of the franchise, and he's done a great job of that, I think, this offseason, and did a great job at FanFest of connecting with people, and smart to come out in the Niners hat when they're playing 3 hours later and go to a Warriors game and all. So he's done all the right things. I just ultimately this is going to be like, does he make the right move in the 8th inning? And I just don't think we have much knowledge there yet.
We had a broadcasters conference call with Tony the other day, and I'm with you guys. Like, in the events we've done together, and I've done some things with Tony, the answers are super just neutral, almost Bill Belichick-like with the personality, where he's not really playing his cards. But on the conference call, we've gotten some meat and potatoes, and the guy knows baseball.
Yeah.
We asked him some questions, all the broadcasters, and I just think publicly right now, he's probably still figuring out what his philosophies are, what his lineup is, who his closers are. And he doesn't want to come out and say one thing and then another thing happens over here. So he's smart like a fox, in my opinion, because I gathered the same thing you guys did. It's like the personality's there, but the meat and potatoes of baseball questions, he's kind of like just, not to tell you guys how to do your jobs, but the first question I'd ask him if I was you is, who's your coaching staff?
My first question, because I would imagine we will get that list before we show up on Tuesday. My first question is what happened? Like, why did we wait 2 months? But I think to your point, like, it is going to be there. People who have spoken to him, and I've talked to some other people behind the scenes who have spoken to him. Like, clearly, he's a really smart baseball guy. You don't get to this point without being that way, and he's a lifer and a baseball rat, and whatever phrase you want to use. I just don't know that we've like gotten there yet. So I'm also just really curious because, opening day, what if they blow a lead in the 9th, or something like that? Like, that's part of his reality now, and it's going to be a bigger spotlight than anything he's ever dealt with before. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I'm with you. He needs to get comfortable, right? You get a new player in camp, you're like, well, he needs spring training to get to know his teammates and to, really like work out with everybody, just learn names and faces. Tony's, ahead of the curve there, but he hasn't had the whole team assembled. It's tough for a manager to answer questions with substance when you have yet to see your guys on the field playing together.
Yeah.
So there's that. Plus, there is the elusive. Oh, it just jumped off, but we've been waiting for us to ask, as FP mentioned, that the coaching staff. This is one of the weirder things, Alex, in my 30 so years covering baseball. I can't remember a coaching staff not being announced. We got just a handful of days before spring training. It's so strange. Like, what is the drawback of announcing what you have? Even if you don't necessarily, you can change the rules later. Like, who's going to care? Or if you add somebody, who's going to care? Is this, what's up here? Does it seem weird, or are we just making too much out of it because we're reporters and we're used to, it gets announced on, November 15th?
I think both. We're probably the only people in the world that care that we don't get corresponding moves anymore when a signing is made. It's like, whatever, it'll come out tomorrow or whenever it comes out. But I also do think, like, my thing with this is I do think it was a bit of a missed opportunity for the Giants just to get some of these people out there. And, they're, by all accounts, he's put together a good staff. So that's what's so strange about this to me, is like, seems like he has put together a good staff with some rising stars in the industry, and with some really experienced guys who are going to help him. And so I just don't really I remember seeing all of them have dinner on the last night of the winter meetings and walk past me. And it's just weird that was 2 months ago and we don't have that list. Maybe there's a really good reason that we'll find out next week, but that's probably us as beat writers, just like, come on, give us the list.
Yeah. Maybe it's like having a really good relationship that you don't want to put a label on it. And so I still am holding out. I think this is all because there's a big name bench coach out there somewhere for him.
That associate manager.
Not that Jace Tingler wouldn't be awesome, because he is. But like, maybe you get a big time bench coach and you just make, I don't know, Jace the, I don't know, what do you call it? Assistant manager or something like that. And he does everything.
I think what I've heard in Susan, I don't know, you probably heard some of the same things, is that we know all the names already. So
all the names have been reported unless they add somebody. And FP and I have mentioned once or twice that we were both hearing David Ross independently a lot. And I'm friends with David Ross. I know him, fairly well. And he's like, no, it's not me. So I don't know. But you know what? Hey, if they want to add somebody, fantastic. But that doesn't mean you can't. Give your writers in a very slow winter something to write about in November or December.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I would have loved to dig deeper into it from a writing perspective, and that is us being selfish. But when they take the field on Tuesday, we're going to be watching what's on the field. So
it also, I think it looks a little bit maybe as if you're a little disjointed or something, like what's going on there that you can't get this announced earlier. That's not the case. I know they're putting a lot of thought into it, but almost maybe overthinking it. Just announce what you've got at the time. It's not that big a deal. Nobody is going to keep score and go wait, 2 months ago you said that guy was at first and that guy's at third. Now you switched them. Yeah.
What are you guys keeping? Excuse me. What are you guys keeping an eye on in spring training this year? What are the battles that Giants fans watching this podcast right now, this show, can really that's the battle I want to watch, whether it's Bryce Eldridge as a DH or a first baseman, whether it's a fourth outfield like we already discussed, whether it's bullpen roles. What am I keeping my eye on in spring training?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the bullpen, and then Bryce. He is the best prospect they've had in a long time, and we saw him last year, so that took some of the buzz off of what'll happen the next few weeks. But I would have him on my opening day roster. I think it's just time, just throw him out there, see what he can do. But you could also make the argument he played 100 games last year in the minor leagues. I think 60 something in AAA, and it's a cleaner fit to getting other people on the roster initially. And one thing, Susan, I always have to remind myself this time of year, for all that happens, a lot of what happens at the end of camp is just how can you keep this guy in your organization for an extra 3 days and then outright somebody, or, it's just a lot of roster moves in that respect. So it is it is an easier way to maybe keep some of these other guys and maybe have more balance on your roster for that first series. But I would like to see him just like hit the ground running and just start that era. And but that's, he's gonna have to, like Drew Gilbert, like he's gonna have to go out there in Scottsdale and I think have a good spring.
I think one of the things that I'm going to keep an eye on is Arraez at second base, and if there's a possibility, if things don't go the way they're hoping, if they have a little bit more leeway to maybe DH him a little bit more, and what happened, that would obviously impact Eldridge and Casey Schmidt. Look, I don't know if that's necessarily a given. They won out on Luis Arráez by promising him he would be the second baseman. But once a guy's in the fold, things can change. Not necessarily the best way to start off your relationship with a new player. So I do think he probably gets the majority of the time there, but perhaps the breakdown is a little different. And if the defense is not there at all, I don't know what they'll do. Now they do have Ron Washington coming in. So I suspect that Arraez will be nothing except for better. He's 28. It's not like he's a guy who should have lost a step, but range is not his strongest attribute. He's a mediocre second baseman, and they've got at least 2 better second basemen on the roster right now.
If you get 200 hits a year, you can play second base. And it's not that I was everything but a second baseman, and Ron Washington taught me how to play second base. It's not a tough position. It really isn't. I mean, the pivot's tough, the feeds are tough, but he's played it before. And the fact that he wants to play it, that means a lot to me. Like, he wants to play second base. That means he has confidence in his ability to play second base. He also has confidence in his ability to hit by taking the 1-year deal and betting on himself versus a 2-year deal somewhere else. So the guy's a worker. You hear about, his routine in the cage. He has a routine in the hotel room before he goes to the ballpark. This guy is a tireless worker. That's going to rub off on this ball club. Number one, to watch this guy in the cage every day. And if he works that hard on offense, he's going to have that same work ethic on defense. And second's a position where you can knock it down, pick it up, and throw the guy out. You can't do that at short and third. The guy's safe. So it's all he has to do is knock it down. I don't remember him being a butcher at second base. I pay attention to everybody's defense. It's one thing that I lock in on every game when I'm broadcasting. It's not like this guy stood out like, oh my God, like Wade Meckler in center field. It's not that. I don't think he's as bad as people are making him out to be at second base. And I think he's going to be a pleasant surprise defensively at that position.
He needs to improve, but yeah, definitely. Alex, where do you see him hitting? We kind of kicked this around the other day, but there are all sorts of interesting potential lineup possibilities now.
Yeah, I think you have to choose one of him or Jung-Hoo and put one at the top and one at the bottom. And I've seen lineups with like Jung-Hoo Lee hitting 5th and Arraez hitting. I don't know that I would do that because they are pretty similar or they're supposed to be pretty similar. I wouldn't be shocked if he's the leadoff hitter to start the year. I mean, obviously there's some platoon stuff there, and like another one of those, like we all think of where he's going to hit, and then Max Fried might be on the other side on opening day, and it's like, well, he probably shouldn't face the lefty. So maybe Elliott will be leading, but I think I would take the shot at the top of the order because you signed him. Like FP said, you have faith in him, and you have faith that he is the guy he was 2 or 3 years ago. Maybe not the guy he was last year. So I would take the shot and see how it goes. And to your point about the defense, like just see how it goes. It's hard to be a butcher at second base. I think it's more of like over time you go, oh, a lot of balls are getting through that side of the infield. But I would take the shot with him, and you signed him and you believe in him and convince him to come here where he had some other offers. So I'd put him near the top and see how it goes.
Yeah, batting champions hitting 9th for 1,000, Alex. I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't think that he's going to hit 9th. But you guys, like serious point, 7, 8, and 9 were a glaring weakness last year. It was just like once you got past 5 or 6, it was like automatic outs. And that's no offense to those guys, but like that was the case for a long time till Patrick Bailey got a little bit hot at the end and he was fouling balls off and staying in the fight a little bit longer in the batter's box. But that's not the worst idea in the world to lengthen that lineup down low and at the very least be a pitch count killer and foul some balls off and go 3-2 every at bat.
I think my main view of the Giants lineup in recent years has been too many guys are hitting like 2 spots too high. So everything they've done in the last year, it does move some guys. You know, Devers, you're locked in there, and Arraez, you're probably somewhere near the top. So some of these guys who probably should have been hitting 7th and were hitting 5th, like it does balance things out better.
Awesome.
I like it. Much better lineup.
Is there any minor leaguers we need to watch besides Bryce Eldridge in camp?
Well, it's our first look at Bo Davidson, who I'm really curious about. Parks Harbor, I'm really curious about. I think, yeah, those are the two that stood out on the NRI list to me. And I'm just fascinated by Will Bednar just because we've seen this over and over and over again. It's a failed starter, but it's somebody who's a first-round pick, and there's a ton of talent there. And you know, I was a little surprised they didn't protect him from the Rule 5 just because I figured there might be somebody around the league who loved this guy in 2020 and 21 and wanted to take a shot at him. But I heard good things from people who saw him in Sacramento last year. The velocity ticked up. And I'll go back to our earlier conversation, like somebody needs to break through in this bullpen. So he's one of the young guys I'm really interested. And I'm sure, Susan, we're all going to be racing to talk to him because it's a fascinating story too. I mean, first round pick who's getting a shot here.
Yeah. I mean, I like Bednars who are relievers. So like that's you know, I don't know if it's somebody's your brother. Do you have the bloodlines necessarily? But certainly it's got somebody to bounce stuff off. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Alex, we'll let you get running right now. But before you go, I mean, we're supposed to ask you a food question. And I'm a food guy in San Francisco. I go out to dinner a lot. I have some of my favorites, but I want to hear, maybe you can give some recommendations to our viewers on this show.
So we moved out of the city last year, and I am a little bummed because I still follow all the Instagram accounts and see. I'm really curious. Have you been to Rich Table?
I have not.
Okay. Rich Table is excellent. But apparently they have like a spinoff? I don't know what the right phrase for a restaurant is, but a second version coming. So that's something that maybe after a day game I would like to do. Yeah, I like Rich Table. That's my favorite in the city, I think. I'm more thinking in Scottsdale right now. Like I'm in that mode of, you know, sneaky good food city. So Culinary Dropout, I love. Probably be there on Tuesday night. But yeah, I think that's my people always put me on the spot with food, but those are the ones that stand out to me.
What's the weirdest thing you've ever eaten for Alex Eats, your Alex Eats segment, which I hope everybody's familiar with because it's phenomenal.
The weirdest, what killed it was Atlanta had like a $30 cheeseburger, which was a giant, like it was like chicken fingers and like grilled cheese was the bun, and it was just, they put like 7 different things in this cheeseburger. And I remember ordering it, and the woman was like, "Are you sure you want to eat this?" And it was one of those things you see on Instagram or MLB's Twitter page in March and go, "Okay, I'll do that when we go to Atlanta." And she's like, "Nobody really orders it." And so it kind of just been sitting there for a while. And it is the only thing of all the Alex Eats I ever did that actually got me sick, because I think they made it like 3 hours earlier and it was just sitting there, but it was probably like 2 feet long, and you're just, yeah, like the lettuce of the burger was like chicken strips, and it was weird. But
your cholesterol.
That one put me, almost missed the next day's game. Like that was
God. They come with defibrillators and an angioplasty. It sounds like it.
Not great. We still like once a year now I'll bust out. Last year it was the banana pudding at Petco Park, where I'm just like, this is my thing, and I'm gonna have that. But I think once I reach 40, I'm like, I don't know that I should be eating the chicken finger nacho grilled cheeseburger and just to film it.
No, we need you at the yard, Alex. You can't be eating that pregame. Hey, thanks for your time today, man. That was really cool of you to come on. It's really awesome. You can catch him on NBC Sports Bay Area, host of Giants Talk podcast. They do a great job over there too. There are competitors, but we're all in this together. So, Alex, thanks a lot for coming on, man. Really appreciate it.
All going to be there next week. So
we love you, Alex. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, we got to get some more subscribers on this thing. You guys, this week has been fantastic. We had over 7,000 views on the Luis Arráez show. The subscribers are up. You guys are starting to follow us, and we're super appreciative of that. We sure, once the baseball season gets going we get to talk about actual games and not try to make up topics for 2 shows a week, that it's going to be even better. We'll be at the ballpark. Susan and I'll grab a player, say, hey, you guys want to come on our podcast? And we got the merchandise. I got my Splash Hit hat right here. I probably should have been wearing it on the podcast. I forgot about that. Here.
Oh, look, there it is.
There we go. Might have been a good thing to wear on the podcast.
But there's other stuff. Look at all this stuff.
Yes. And I got one of the t-shirts. It's really soft material, like Susan has said a million times. I love my hats. We got backpacks, we got notebooks, we got coffee cups, we got all kinds of stuff. And if you go on YouTube, it's right below. It has all the merch. You just click on it. And it's just such a cool logo. Dude in the cove catching a ball. Hopefully it's not the guy that didn't give Elliot Ramos his opposite field splash hit back, because that's lame, but it's not that guy. So, all right, Susan, thanks for joining us today again. You're the best. That was fun with Alex. I love that guy.
Oh, super fun. Yeah, he's a treat always.
All right, have a happy Super Bowl weekend, everybody. And thanks for checking out the podcast. And like I say on the way out, every single time with sirens, swing hard in case you hit it on splash hit territory.